Hey everyone! Today we're going to be learning about how to create depth and space into our artworks. And we're going to be learning about background, middle ground, and foreground. And we're going to be learning what these words mean and how we can use them in art to create a sense of space. Okay, so usually when we draw a drawing, we're dealing with a piece of paper, and we might draw one object so that it looks like it's just on its own, for example, our flowers from Romero Brito. But how we organize objects on our paper can give a sense of space. So the way that the paper and space divides is into three: background, middle ground, and foreground. Background is what you see all the way in the back, always actually, on top of your page. That's always going to be whatever you want to see farthest away. Middle ground is what you see in the middle. It's not directly in front of you, but it's also not all the way in the back from the farthest point, okay? And foreground is what happens at the front. So maybe my tree. And that is always on the bottom of your page, okay? So as an example, if I draw a house on the bottom of my page in the foreground, and I draw it big, and then I draw one in the middle of my page in the middle ground, and then one on the very top of my page towards the background, if you look at this, and let's say I draw a little path from each house to each house, suddenly I've been able to create a feeling that something is closer or farther away, right? If I had drawn just 3 houses in the middle of the page, like this, 3 random houses, not using the idea of background, middle ground, foreground, they just look like they're floating in space, don't they? Now if I draw on the bottom, in the foreground, in the middle ground, and all the way at the top in the background, I have a sense of space. Doesn't it look like I would start out here and then I would walk to my path to visit my friend? Let's pretend we're not in quarantine. I would walk over here to visit my friend, and then me and my friend would walk even farther and visit our third friend, right? So you're creating a sense of space through using background, middle ground, and foreground. And we're going to be doing a drawing today of nature, but we're going to create a sense of space by using our 3 layouts, our 3 spaces, okay? And I have my sketch down. You're going to follow my sketch in pencil. I'm going to go over my sketch in marker so you can actually see. But we're going to be doing an ocean at the front, mountains in the back, and sunshine at the very back. And sorry, nope, I'm not using good paper. I'm using printing paper because I like to recycle. I don't like wasting paper. So we're going to get started. I've got my ocean, and I'm going to walk us through how we're going to do our ocean, okay? So you're going to be doing this with pencil, but I'm going to use marker so that you can see. So my ocean is going to be in the foreground. It's going to be the biggest thing in the front. And I'm going to do it with a blue marker. The one I just had is almost out of ink. So an ocean, if you ever see the tidal waves, they're often spiraling. And this is going to be my big thing way up front. And so you're going to be building spirals out of your page, out of the front of your page. Notice there's space up here, okay? I'm not doing my ocean all the way up here. I'm doing it towards the front. And I'm just going to keep adding some spirals. And I'm going to cut off my ocean right here using a wavy line. So this whole thing I've done in blue, this is my foreground. This is the biggest part of my page. And this is going to be fun because I'm going to really get to color this in and add little fishies if I want. I mean, I'm highly inspired by nature, so I love incorporating nature into art. So I've got my spirals. Before I start decorating, let's finish the outline, okay? So we're gonna do the middle ground now. The middle ground was where the second house was on my picture. We have our foreground here. This is our ocean. We're gonna do our middle ground. The middle ground is going to be made up of valleys and mountains, mountains and hills. And I actually realized I might just connect this part and just, I'll decide whether I want that to be mountains or not. I'll see. But for my middle ground now, I'm going to be putting green for hills and valleys, okay? So right around where your ocean, just right above the last line for your ocean, draw a soft wavy line. So this is like the ocean suddenly is meeting Earth, okay? It's suddenly meeting Earth. And I'm going to add another, maybe this is going to be grass later when I color it in. And I'm going to draw some wavy lines to make an effect of hills. And I'm going to do some lines on top as if they were mountains. So do you suddenly feel like maybe the ocean is right in front of you and then behind the ocean are the valleys? If so, you've been able to successfully create your foreground and your middle ground. I've got my mountains, my ocean. Now the last thing I want to add in my background, overseeing everything, it's going to be the shining setting sun. Or maybe it's the rising sun. It's up to how you want to do it. So I have my sun sketched out. I'm going to go in my marker. Again, I highly suggest that right now you should be using pencil, and then you can go in with marker after. So my sun's going to be real big. This is like a really artsy way to represent, okay? I've got my sun, and I'm going to do its rays coming out. This is my background. This is the very top part of my paper. This is what's overlooking the rest of the picture. Okay, now this is not done. This is just my preliminary sketch. I'm going to, if you were closer, you could see, actually you can see, I have some pencil marks here. That's from my original sketch. I'm going to go ahead, and you should do this too when you've done outlining with your colors. I'm going to erase all my little pencil marks so it's nice and neat. Because when I'm tracing, I might not get it exactly where I drew my pencil. My pencil line is just a suggestion. It's just an idea. Okay? For example, here I had a very different line that I did from my original line. And this is when we get to really start having fun. I would love it if, the next time you go to the park, take a look at the leaves and all the colors. Is everything just one color of green? I would be very surprised if I heard the answer no, because out in nature, we have so many different shades of green. We've got light greens and dark greens and middle greens and forest greens. So I'm going to use all the greens that I have in every single material I have, which is just colored pencil, marker, and charcoal. I'm going to try to color these in lots of greens, and just like the ocean, if you look at the ocean, it is very, very rarely just one blue. Sometimes there's even greens and purples in the ocean. So I'm going to go ahead and use all the blues I have. And last but not least, if you ever look at a sunset, or the sun in general, the sun shines very yellow and bright, but there are times when the sun looks orange, looks red. During a sunset, there can even be purple and pinks in your sunset. So we're going to just go ahead, now that we've done our sketch with our ocean in the foreground, our valleys and mountains in the middle ground, and our sun in the background, I'm just going to have a lot of fun coloring now. And I feel like I've talked about this before, how you use your lines can create a sense of movement. And I'm just picking to color this the way I want to color it. I'm just adding some light blues in here. And sorry, I mean, I could do this so much better if I was working on the table, but drawing up on the wall is a bit tough. So we're doing something here called mixed media. We're using different materials to make our artwork. So I'm, if I was using only marker, it would be one material or one media. But I'm going to use colored pencil and charcoal, so it's mixed media. And artists can get really crazy. They'll do mixed media with all different kinds of materials, from sculpture to collage to even like textile art, like crocheting or knitting. So I added some charcoal or oil pastel. I'm just repeating these wavy lines. And then, as you can see, marker is really good for getting an outline down because it's pretty dark and solid. Charcoals are good for adding accents. And then colored pencil is sort of the lightest thing out of all of these. So you can just really lightly, I haven't even sharpened this one since I've used it. You can just really lightly run colored pencil across your white paper to give a little bit of color to your white. So it's not just a white ocean, it turns into a nice blue. Oof, this is going to make my wrist tired. I might actually have to sharpen this at some point today after this. And I'm just traveling it across my page. And notice how awesome, like I'm really loving, especially when I look in the camera, I'm really liking how the blue is showing up, how the ocean's showing up. It's coming off like there's so much going on. There's so much, it's complex. It's not just like one color. There's like different colors, different textures, and that's making me really happy. It kind of reminds me of, like, I feel like I'm kind of getting inspired by that famous print the Japanese block printer did, The Great Wave. I have more or less this down. I might add a little more dark. I realize I didn't do a lot up here. And if you want to add fish, do it. If you want to add some coral down there, do it. Google it. Look up things you find in the ocean. You could add a ship. I mean, I'm suddenly super, like, I could add a little ship there if I wanted. I'm gonna stick to my original plan. But you can really go wild with this and do whatever you want to customize it. Okay. So I'm going to move into my earth part. I have my ocean water. I'm going to move into the land and earth, the valleys and peaks. And when I think about nature in terms of greens, bushes, trees, mountains, I think of blues, there's whites, there's browns, there's yellows, there's beige, all kinds of greens, lights and darks. So we can pull from that and, use as many of the range of those colors as we want. So I'm not just coloring everything in one color, right? That wouldn't make my artwork so interesting. You know, if I were to look at my final artwork and I only colored it all one green, all one blue, I wouldn't find my artwork as interesting. So adding all different types of shades and colors, it adds complexity to your picture and it makes the viewer more interested in what they're looking at. And I'm really just looking down, looking at my colors, and I'm just picking up what I feel and adding it into my earth part of the drawing. And like I said, sometimes you find earth has browns in it, so you can add some browns if you want. Just trying to fill in my color. And you know, I noticed I haven't used a ton of dark green except for when I used to first outline. So I'm going to put in a little dark green. And you can go ahead and pick the colors you want and use them as you want in any section that you happen to be working on. Okay. Oh, I noticed there's a gap here, so I might fill that in. This is going to be the shore, right? When the ocean ends, right? When the boats finally find land from the ocean and they need a dock and they're like, we found land! Maybe I'll make this bit yellow, like it's sand. I might add a little green on top. Awesome, so I'm almost done. It's down to the sun and the sky, and you can go ahead and color that in any way you want. You can make it all yellow, as the sun is often seen as such, but you can also add oranges, reds, pinks. So I could grab my orange here and add some lines to show how warm the sun is, how it gives warmth to the earth and warms our ocean. We don't want it to warm our ocean too much because then it's global warming, but and last but not least, I could color in my sky. So I might just pick up my blue and add a couple blues here, because if you ever look at the sky, it's definitely not white, right? You actually have white clouds. I might fit in a couple clouds. And that's just by using a bunch of wavy lines to make a wavy shape. And coloring around the wavy shape. Don't fill in your cloud because the clouds are white. And filling in all that space between your sun rays. I'm kind of moving fast. And even honestly, if you want to grab black, you can do this type of symbol for birds flying. I don't see anything wrong with that. Okay, this is your artwork. You can do what you want with it. Remember, at the end of our art lessons and artworks, we always sign. I might make this darker so you can really see. Okay, so that is our lesson on creating space in art. using foreground, middle ground, and background. Our sun was our background today, so I'm coding it in order to create a sense of depth and a nature scene. And next class or next video, I'm going to be doing another foreground, middle ground, background space lesson, and we're going to be making like a neighborhood. Okay? Well, I hope you enjoyed. Certainly hope you're practicing. I'm hoping this takes more time than it took me so that you're working really hard. And yeah. Thank you!